You're welcome back to the Pulse on the Joy News channel on Multi TV, and let's now head to the courts where there was drama today as the wife of the deceased Upper East Regional Chairman of the MPP, Adams Mahama, told a packed courtroom that her husband told her that Gregory Afoko and one Asabke poured a substance on him before Mr. Mahama passed on. Hajia Zenabu Adams is the first witness to be called by the prosecution. Journalist Joseph Akable was in court and saw how things unfolded today. Joins me in the studio for more on the story. Good afternoon to you. For many who may not have followed the story of the death of the Upper East Regional Chairman of the MPP, Adams Mahama, and the individuals who are being held before the courts, bring us back to speed, and then you can give us the update of what happened in court today.
Well, it all has to do with the Upper East Regional Chairperson of the NPP, Adams Mahama. Now, he passed on somewhere last year, and it had to do with suffering from acid burns. We understand he went home one evening, and acid was poured on him, and he died as a result of that injury. Now, Mr. Gregory Afoko was named in issues relating to that particular death, so he was put before a court, and so far, the court has gone through the processes at the lower court, and finally, the case has been brought at the criminal court. Now, what happened today was that the case was officially opened. Now, what happened again is that the counsel for the Attorney General who handles prosecution in such instances, he presented Ms. Hajia Zinabu Adams as the first witness to give her testimony to the court. Now, she has been telling the court what exactly happened on that fateful day. So right from the morning when she saw her husband, and she tells the court that her husband told her he was going to check on a property he was putting up. It has to do with a hotel he was constructing. Her husband came back in the evening at around 11 p.m. At that point in time, all she could hear was her husband shouting and screaming and wailing. And when she got to the car, he realized that the attire of the husband was entirely off. So her husband was essentially naked at that point in time. So she had to cover her husband with a cloth, and they had to rush Mr. Adams to the hospital before Mr. Adams subsequently passed on. But what was of interest to the court was the fact that she mentioned that before her husband passed on, when she got closer to her husband in the car and asked the husband, "What's wrong with you?" Her husband said, "The younger brother of Paul Afoko, Gregory, has poured a substance on me, and that is what is causing the pain now."
Okay, so that was her account. But what else happened in court? Because I know some issues to do with the medical report also came up.
That objection was raised by counsel for the defendant and was represented by Israel Aka and Eko Kosa. Now, they had reason to believe that there was a police medical report, because they say that standard procedure is that when someone is injured, a police medical report comes in, then the person is taken to the hospital, and there's another report from the hospital. But in this particular case, according to the counsel for the AG, Mr. Matthew, he argued that with that particular case, because Mr. Adams was rushed right from the scene straight to the hospital and passed on, there was no police medical report, but rather what they had was the report from the autopsy, the Director General who handled the autopsy, and there was no police medical report in this case. But the counsel disagreed, and they had a bit of problem with that, and they made the court aware that indeed they were going to investigate to find out whether there was a police medical report or there wasn't one.
Okay, now for the wife of the man who passed, Mr. Adams Mahama, what was her demeanor in court as she was given testimony of what happened on that fateful day?
She was very calm. There was a point in time that it got a bit emotional, and that was when the court asked, when her counsel was leading her to give testimony, her counsel asked her whether she knew the accused person, Mr. Gregory Afoko, and she had to turn and have a look at Mr. Gregory Afoko, and at that point in time, she almost broke down in tears, and the judge had to quickly alert her not to stop looking at Gregory Afoko. That was a bit emotional at that point in time, but she was calm all throughout. She communicated in Hausa, and we had an interpreter coming in. Then after the court proceedings, she walked silently out of the courtroom.
And left. Who else made it to the court today to monitor proceedings? Because I can imagine you mentioned that it was a packed room today. Who are the individuals who made it to the court today?
For the names, in terms of, we expected to see some party bigwigs, but there was none present at that point in time. All those who were present appear to be close aides of Mr. Gregory Afoko. They were there to lend their support. There was also another instance where Mr. Gregory Afoko identified a gentleman who we are told was the personal assistant to the deceased Mr. Adams Mahama. Now, in the course of the trial, what the court did was that they told all witnesses to exit the court. Now, Mr. Gregory Afoko alerted the court that he feels that the personal assistant's presence, he could relay information of the testimony that is being given by Hajia Adams to those witnesses, and that could compromise the entire case. But the court disagreed and said that their presence doesn't really change the testimony that anyone will be given in court. So it should allow that gentleman be in court.
Okay. So for Mr. Gregory Afoko, who was in court today, what was his posture beyond raising concerns about certain individuals who were in the court who he felt will compromise the case?
He was quite calm throughout the proceedings. There was only on few occasions when the issue of his name coming up as the husband mentioning the name before he passed on, he looked a bit apprehensive at that point in time. But aside that, generally he was calm. When he was called upon, he moved up. When he had to exit, he moved quietly out of the court.
Okay. So what happens after today?
Now, what happens now is that the cross-examination in terms of the lady giving a testimony, she hasn't finished. So once she's done with her testimony, then the cross-examination will be done by counsels for the defendant, that is counsels for Gregory Afoko.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Joseph Akabule, for these details of what happened in the court today. But was it the only story you followed today, or there was another one?
The other one had to do with the murder of the late MP JB Dankwa, but unfortunately the hearing couldn't take place today because counsels for the defendant couldn't show up in court.
Couldn't show up. All right. Thank you, Joseph. We'll go for a quick break at this from home. We'll come back. We'll look at that comment being made by the Inspector General of Police, John Kodalo. You may have heard it before, banned on social media. He's back again, repeating it. We have the reasons for you after the break. Stay with us.